The other night I was trying to go to sleep, and as is a lot of times the case, my mind would not stop. In this in-between time, when your brain just doesn't want to go to sleep, but you're so tired, I think this is some of the best times to come up with ideas and thoughts. But unfortunately, what happens is that most of the time, I'm just so tired that I just forget about what I was thinking about as I would lay there trying to go to sleep. The other night, though, was different. As I lay there trying to go to sleep, the idea was so awesome that I picked up my phone, put in the thoughts, put the phone down, and went to sleep. What dawned on me as I lay there trying to go to sleep is that I grew up in a faith tradition that was rigid in its thinking and its theology. In other videos I've talked about this, but as I lay there in the fog of sleep and thoughts, I came to a deeper understanding of the theological straitjackets that I had been placed in. Evangelicalism, for as long as it has called itself Christian, has built up for itself a system, an airtight system for understanding the Bible. And growing up in this sealed environment, I wasn't exposed to the wider tradition that makes up a completed body of Christ. Though over time, I've learned about my faith and have learned that there is more to being a Christian than what I was initially exposed to. There is a richer and greater diversity about what it means to be a Christian than what evangelicalism had initially led me to believe. So this has been a somewhat interesting time in my life, where once something might have been outside of the right belief system of evangelicalism, I am finding that a lot of things are not outside of the broad parameters and traditions of Christianity as a whole. It's as if there were parts of my Christian faith that I never knew about because they were deemed unacceptable. And now finding them and trying to integrate them into my life and figure out how they actually pertain to being a Christian. Though talking about a rigid Christianity, I do want to make one thing clear as I was thinking about this. There are broad parameters by which all Christians agree, and some might call them rigid. Jesus being fully God and fully man, the virgin birth, miracles, Jesus dying on the cross for all of humanity's sins. These are just the broad parameters that all Christians agree upon to call ourselves Christian. But what has happened is that these broad parameters were not enough for some people. As history has moved on, some people have wanted a more pure Christian faith. They have slowly but surely cut away the rich diversity that is Christianity in order to achieve that purity. An example of this from just my experience is found within those who push for an extremely literal interpretation of the Bible and especially of Genesis. I'm sure I've said this before, but I grew up in a household that believed in a literal interpretation of Genesis and that the world is only 6,000 years old and that God created the world in a literal 6 days. This was the truth, and there was no deviation from it. Evolutionary thought and the scientists who espoused it were dismissed based on the simple premise that they weren't there, they couldn't have known. So it's been quite a journey to discover that historically Christianity did not and does not need to believe in a literal 6 days of creation. Growing up, I was told that if I strayed away from this literal view of creation and Genesis, that I would somehow stray away from the fundamentals of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And the implication was that to do so, I would cease to become a Christian in some way. I would lose faith, and I would just become like everybody else in the world. But what I've been finding is that on this discovery of faith, on opening my eyes to the wider traditions of Christianity, I have fallen more and more in love with Jesus Christ and His gospel and His ways. I'm finding that it is a beautiful thing to discover what it means to be a Christian outside of the rigid structures and ideas of purity that have come with evangelicalism. It has opened up a whole new world of Christianity to me, one that I could never have imagined going to Bible school or even when I was growing up in the church. And this is not just an adventure for me. I like sharing these things, but this can also be an adventure for you as well. Just because you grew up in a household or a church that believed it had all the right biblical answers to what Christianity is, doesn't mean there's more to discover and doesn't mean that they have all the right answers. You can have different thoughts and you can have different ideas about what it means to be a Christian. Different thoughts than when you were a child, maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, or different thoughts from last week. Doing this has made me more of a Christian. Doing this has made me fall in love with Jesus Christ more and more. Doing this has made me fall in love more and more with the Holy Word and the Holy Scriptures of Jesus Christ and His apostles. My name is David Patton. I publish videos talking about my Christian faith and my journey through it. Thank you for watching. Have a good week, and God bless.